Okay, now that is, Erin is our lovely model up there, and I started doing the drawing workshop last week, so just did the drawing to start out with, which was basically this over here. And the way I did it was that I just measured the proportions over here. Usually the eyes are halfway down from the chin to the bottom of the chin to the top of the head. But I saw in Erin that halfway down was her eyebrows, so that the distance from the eyebrows to the chin was the same as from the eyebrows up to the top of the head over there. The next step that I did was I looked at her and found out where was the center from left to right. On the outside of the face, usually goes where the beginning of the ear is. And I found out that halfway between the two, and I made a mark where halfway was, and it came out to the corner, the tear duct of her left eye. So after I did that and I placed that, then I had to figure out how wide to make the eyes. And usually the width of the eye, two of the widths of the eye, go from the eyebrow to the bottom of the nose. So by measuring the distance from the eyebrow to the bottom of the nose, and dividing that in half, that gave me the width of one eye. So I put in the one eye, put the space between the eyes, which is the same distance as the width of an eye, and then I drew in the other eye, which was a little bit less, and because she's turning a slightly three-quarter view. So here we have that distance here that goes up to this eye. You see, this is the width of an eye, and I made that eye a little bit narrower. And then I just visually looked at what was the space between the outside of that eye and the outside of the face. And then I made my drawings down there. And then I usually started up here, lined and did my nose, lining up with the eye. And that goes out, that's about the width of an eye also. So maybe a little bit wider, tiny bit, but basically that's it. But I lined up this nose with where it hit that eye, and it was in a little bit in more from the corner of the eye, so there instead of right in the corner here. And then I lined up the mouth with where it hit the eyes, or part of that, because I had drawn in the eye, so I have a reference point. And then I marked in the width over here, and then I measured again as to, I think it was halfway between the nose and the top of the bottom lip, maybe off a little bit. No, that's maybe the bottom. It wasn't down this far. Okay, so it came down about halfway. It was about there. But I measured again from this part to the top of the lips. Checked this width over here. Everything in drawing is to measure and compare to something else. So here we have now. And you have to search around. You have to be a detective to search around. And what I did over here was that the height of the mouth from the top to the bottom was the width of an eye. So, and then when you want to get from the bottom lip to the chin, that was the width of one eye also. And this distance over here, so the distance was bigger from the nose to the bottom lip than from the bottom lip to the chin. So basically there was some of my thinking, but of course I'm doing it from memory from last session over here. And but you can always, but you have to map it out. You just measure it out and then compare it to something else. Okay, now I'll be starting to draw. Actually, I should have shown you my set over here, the way I have it set up. more of a traveling set, and then my complete sets. And I'm sure I have over many more than 1,000 of the pastels, but this is the way I have this set up over here now. And you can set them up any way you want to. But right over here I have my new pastels, mostly my drawing pastels, and then lighter flesh tones over here, where I arrange everything in values from dark to light. Here I have 3 boxes of my soft pastels, Rembrandts, and I have that set up again, dark, the middle tone to light, and then my warm reds, my cool reds, and the light. Here I have raw umbers, some grays, and some yellows over here. Then I have some yellow new pastels and cool pastels. I like purples, cool pencils. There's brown pencils that I usually, Othellos, to be drawing with. And then some red pencils, Conti and Othello. These 2 boxes over here, I can make just a limited set. I can just go out with just these 2 little boxes here and do the whole drawing just with that. And then I have some lighter ones, flesh tones and pencils, red new pastels, and some charcoal pencils that I don't use too much. Okay. All right, so now when I start now, what I like to do is recheck the drawing over here. And I can take a brown pencil. Good one to redraw with is a number 15 Othello. Unfortunately, since it's such a wonderful pencil, the company stopped making it. Again, I'll just start up over there. I like to work in my dark areas and come out to my light areas over here now. I'm going to check the angles again. Goes up to the center of the eye, and the outside of the eye will hit the center of his pupil. So it just goes out there, so that's where that goes. I'll check the shape in here. Here's my tear duct. Coming in a little bit. Going down. A little past that also. Checking the shape over here. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. I think I need a little more space in here. Pupil over to the right. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time in drawing it because I want to get to the color, but also those are warming up again. The eyebrows to the left of the tear duct. I'm drawing this shape in here now. Coming up there, and see where a line changes direction. Judging the distance from the eye to the eyebrow, it's about there. I think this eyebrow will go down a little bit, so that's a little higher again. So this angle doesn't go up that much. I may move this down a little bit more here. Change direction. Goes down a little like that. comes down, goes up a little again, down, let me just stop this. So as I was saying, so this now is a little bit lower. So I'll just erase that with a kneaded eraser and just move it down a little bit. Important thing is never be reticent to make a correction. Don't do the whole portrait and then when you get to the end you see something is wrong and you hate to change it. As I see over here, I think this space is a little bit too big. So let's see what we can do on that. I move over here from there. There's my highlight right about there. And then this nose goes a little bit past here now. And then it goes up in a stronger angle. Like that. And I'm not going to draw this whole part of the nose over there because wherever possible, I stay away from lines. Okay. Especially when I'm doing the color. So I'm going to line up the eyes, this side to that eye, and they're pretty equal on the same horizontal line. And a little stronger angle than I had before. Shape, I have to move that eye over also. See, this space here should be a little bit more. Just wiped out an eye. Isn't that marvelous? I can line up this eye, that eye, so that'll be a little bit lower. Come up. And this space now would be about over here. So I'll move that over just a bit. Yeah. Okay, that goes over again like that. Iris now. Sometimes I'll just go from the outside of the iris to the pupil, judging that space there, and then going out to the other side like that. Now I'm going to push this out just a little bit. Comes in here. That's down a little lower. Alright. I'm not going to spend much more time on this drawing now because I want to get to the color. It's closer here and goes out. Okay. Now, there's a lovely shape right at the outside now, so it goes a little past the eye, then comes up that direction. I will bring in this a little bit more, and then it goes out like that. This, I think I'll shave that off instead of being so strong an angle. I'm going to go a little bit closer, coming out of this nice line over there. Then it goes in, and then by the time it gets to about this point between the nose and the mouth, it straightens out. And always you have to check against some other feature or plane to see where a line changes an angle. Okay. Here we are, nice rounder. Down like this. And then we have a little more of a slant over there now. And then a little horizontal. And up a little higher, then straighten it out there. Okay. Alright. And that's it now. I'm going to just change it over here. Okay. Now, that's my drawing. I could work on this now again, but you don't want to spend too much time doing all these details and drawing, because when you put in your colors, all of these lines are going to disappear. But you want to keep it in mind and get them accurate to start out instead of making big changes. Since I didn't discuss the drawing last week, I'll judge my distance between the two nostrils in that center. Going up. Then get the rest of it coming down like this. I want to get my shape of my shadow. Shape of shadows are very important, especially when you're repositioning the model in between breaks. You're lining the model up according to the shape of the shadows. Now it comes across in here, and it goes down in that center. That goes down to the center of the lips. It goes out here. Okay. And this I'm going to make a little steeper in the angle of that part there. Goes down here. And what we're doing teeth, the corners are dark. It gets darker as it goes into the mouth over there. That'll come down a little bit more than I had before. And this will come down a little bit more here. And it's a little thinner on that side now. The bottom lip is usually narrower than the top lip. So you don't go out to the corners, you go in a little bit, depending upon the mouth that you're doing. This goes in a little bit also, not out to the end. This I may make a little bit shorter. And angles are very important. Okay. And the shape of my shadows now on the side of the face. The hair lines up with that part over there and the eyes. There's a little hair in here. Cheeks. And now usually it goes right down to the corner of the mouth. On Erin, it goes down a little bit more. It comes down to like that. And there's a little bit of light showing here, but I'm not going to pay attention to it. And then this part of the mouth, this face is darker down over here. It's dark up here. All right, and I think that it should be enough for the drawing. I have a hand in here. We just place it for a short time, and then we'll get to that hopefully later on. Okay, now I'm going. Okay. All right, now what I'm going to do now is just put a tone over the hair and the shadow, because I like to get in my dark areas first. The thing about pastel is that I have thousands of pastels, and if I have 5,000 pastels, I still wouldn't find the one right pastel for that particular spot. So what you have to do in pastels, you have to just keep mixing and mixing and mixing. So the basic thing is that you want to get your values correct and then work up to the correct color. Now, as far as her hair,
do you always start with the hair?
no, I usually start with my shadows, but I want to get to the hair soon also, because there's such a large area. It's so much easier to do a brunette or red because blonde and the other colors, I have a million of the soft yellow colors upstairs, but basically we want to get You can't get that yellow here first. I just want to get the right value.
Are you using black ochre?
No, this is a dark raw umber. So, and I'm not going to do it in a lot of detail. Usually I just want to get it turning in a three-dimensional. So that I put down for the value, and then I want to get into the hair itself. Now that's too light, and the reason that I set these up in values is because if it's too light, I know I have to go to the darker areas. If it's too dark, I go to the lighter areas. This over here is a 223, which I like to use a lot for drawing. It's a very nice one to use for drawing. And again, I just want to create these values. Getting the hair as dark as it should be in relation to the other parts over here. In the beginning, I don't have to press too dark, leaving that part over there. So while I have this, I can get this a little dark down in here. This will be the hair over there now. Now, I see this as a cool area because she's wearing a nice blue top, and a lot of that is shining up in there, and blue is a cool color. I want to get a nice value of side over here. And I'm not going to make these shadows too dark in the beginning.
What color is that?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what color is that?
This one is a 231, or the 339-3, which is an English red. It's the darkest of the English reds. So a lot of these warm colors in the darkest value make a very nice brown, because they're putting black into those reds over there. Now the important thing is to make the ear in the beginning the same as the shadow over there, because even though there are a lot of light parts, dark parts, and so forth, you have to think it's going in the same direction, or close to the same direction as the side of the face over here. Now, into the other shadow areas now, I want to get something that's not too dark yet, but I want to get a tone down over in here, because the eyes are recessed, forehead is out past the eyes, the cheek is out past the eyes, so they're indented in, so you want to get that nice dark feeling in here. This is a 231-3, that's the darkest of the gold ochre. I can use that a little, get a transition tone on the edge here now. Turn that. Now I don't have a lot of, usually you'll see that there's a lot of shadow on one side of the nose. And that makes it very effective. What I did on Erin is I just put the lighters directly right in the front. This way we have more soft areas, less than a lot of dark areas. And my intent over here, since you have a nice, lovely young face over here, you don't want to make shadows too dark. When you have your shadows too dark, it adds age to the face itself. I'm going to take a very light purple. It's a new pastel.
Will that gray the yellow ochre?
No, the one I just put on?
Yeah.
No, that is a gold ochre.
Okay.
And, see, I don't have my full set here, but the gold ochre is similar to a flesh tone, but the darkest one, really tones it down, and it's great to use for transition tones from the dark into the light. I'm just going to get this a little cooler down here now. Now I see this is lighter than the shadow up here. That's a darker shadow. So pressure is very important, so I'm just using the same stick with a little more pressure, going over a little more, so that now gets darker than the other areas in here. And this, of course, has to be darker than what's up there. You have to keep adjusting, because every time you do one area, it influences the other area. And then what you have is a change that has to be made. This is a little still too cool, but the important thing is that don't get excited that the first thing you put down has to be absolutely correct. It has to be close. Great to be close. This is a 343-7. 7 is a little lighter than the average tone of this Caput Mortem Red. It's a lovely color, the Caput Mortem Red. It's a cool, sort of reddish, brownish color. So I can just start coming out of here now. Warmer. I'm going to get a little across here. I'm even going to warm up this a little bit. Still should be darker in there, and we'll get to that. This eye socket just comes around like that. And I want to get a little darker on the side. Of course, the side of the head, here's the front of your forehead, then it goes to the side over there. This will get a little tone on the side. You can go a little bit lighter than that. This is a 343-8, so it's the same color, but a lighter value. Top of the cheeks are always nice and light. Throw this in, start out with. A little lighter up on the top of these cheeks. You really have to study the planes of the face to see what areas are always light and what are always dark. It depends on which way that part of the face faces in relation to the source of the light. The forehead is usually the lightest area. Light area here, always coming out on the next to the nose on the top here. This is skin in here, which is quite light. A little more yellowish, not that cool, but as I said, we can make those adjustments. Now, I want to add a little tone in here. I want to just give a tone over the teeth over here now. See, when you're making your teeth, most people make the teeth too light. So to force myself not to make it too light, I just put a tone over it right away. And I'm going to get a little bit on the side. This is a pencil, a fellow pencil 35. And I like to get soft edges on everything. Everything. Except the cast shadow, which should have a hard edge over in here. Now I see this area is a little more red than I'm putting on now, but I want to get in that value that should be correct.
So Dan, you go back and forth between pencil and new pastel and Rembrandt.
And soft, yes. I'm using just mainly the Rembrandt this evening. There were so many great colors in the Grumbacher set, and I loved them. Unfortunately, they don't make them anymore, so I don't try to get too involved in that there. You know, when they stopped, I went out and I bought all the 32M and 32D that I could find, because those were great red colors in the Grumbacher set. All right, now, I'm going to put a little tone over her irises, because most people make the irises too light. Now, Erin has nice light irises, but when you compare that against all the front tones on the skin, it is darker. So, it's lovely light blue eyes, but and also they're nicely deep set, so that there's a shadow going right halfway across both sides. So when I work later on, I'll make the top darker. But I just want to get some value down there to start out. Again, the frightening thing is when you're putting on all these colors, you say, oh, I'm losing my drawing. No, you don't really lose your drawing, because if you put your colors in, you put them in the right spots. So you just when you put your color, each color has a value and a shape. So you put that in that correct shape. I want to make those eyes a little bit darker, but I want to get some flesh tones up there first. So I'm going to try to simplify just all the face. Anything that goes, I call this my oval of light over here. So it really goes down, falling from the cheekbones down to the mouth, up the other side. See this cheek, add into that cheek. And everything above here now is lighter than everything down there. So this is a burnt sienna. That's a 411, 411.8. It should be 411.8. It's a light tone of the burnt sienna. Now the darker tones of burnt sienna I can match with little olive green, and it makes a nice shadow. And I don't try to press in too hard at the very beginning. But basically when I put that down, I think I need more pinker tones than that for Erin's skin. This is a little too light. It's a 371.9, but it should be all right for over here. A little bit lighter there, lighter there. I'm just throwing these into, this highlighter is fairly high on the nose. Usually it's a little bit lower. I don't see the strong light as I do on this side. You know, I know where all of these usually go, but if you're looking at the model and you don't see it that way, then don't put it in. Don't go by a formula. Forget these formulas. They'll help you much of the time. But basically, if you get locked into them, then you stop looking at the model, and you just do everything where the colors usually are. This is a Carmen and Permanent Red Light, excuse me, Permanent Red Deep, 371. So this is an 8. It's the same value of this color as what I put over here, but this color is lighter than that burnt sienna. You see that's more pink. I want to get more pink across these cheeks up here and across the nose. Now a lot of times people say you're losing the drawing when you go right across the nose like that. Yeah, but no, what I want to do is to get a whole surface, especially since the light is right in the front, and I don't have the definitive shadow shape on the nose itself. This, of course, is nice and pink over here. And at all times I'm trying to think of values. Now, when you have a stick in your hand and you have that certain color, when you're working on one area, look around. Say, where else can I use that? Instead of putting it back and then trying to find the color, gee, I could have used it there. While you have it in your hand, just look around to see where else you can use that. Okay. The trouble is, Erin is too pretty. It's so much easier to do an ugly person. There's so much to hang your hat on, right? Okay. Now I'm going to get a little more stronger on the pink cheeks, that wing of the nose, top of this.
What color is that?
That's Carmen, and 318 is the number of it. 8 is a pretty light rendition of the Carmen. 318, comma, 8. The last number is the value. That's a cool color. I'll show you. I have a little box I've arranged with new pastels, reds. In the dark reds on new pastel, they're so hard to get onto your paper once you have applied pastel. It just doesn't take over. But in the beginning, while the paper is bare, charge and take advantage of that bare paper, and it will catch these darker tones of the red in the new pastel. And it's always darker in the corners. I'm going to get a little dark on that corner later on. The nostrils, try to keep the nostrils warm. Dark, they're very dark, but because the light goes through the skin and it's just a hole inside there, it's getting a little warm because it's filtrating through the flesh. And I'll put in this nice little red tear duct there now. It's quite dark, so after a while you're not going to see that much of the red because it'll be getting darker. I'll throw a little bit on the ear there. Here's a fairly red over in here. Okay. And you have some warmer reds we can use. In the center I see it as lighter than on the sides. Okay. And a little darker down in here. So give Erin another break. Alright. Now I'm going to restate some of the drawing over here. I'm going to take a new pastel, black new pastel. Get my little ball stick in here. Just want to get some of the darks. No, I'll probably be covering this with another color also, but I just want to restate it and get my values in here. Get my pupils in here. Okay. Erin has big pupils. Very big pupils. See how light the iris looks after I do that. And get this in here again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a shadow across the eye. didn't take any grays with me. You know, I have soft grays. I'm going to use this. This is a olive green. I'm just going to bring that right across the top here. I'm putting this mainly in here for the value. So I want to put that in the shadow. Now take one of my ones here. This is a 339-3 again. English red, the darkest of the English reds. Sort of set it in there. I'm going to make it darker than that. So, okay, this is a 263, which is very good normally for shadows. But I don't want to have the shadows too dark on Erin. I want to keep everything nice and light, but I want to have this relationship in here. So my cast shadow under the nose is going to be darker than the shadow on the nose itself. But cast shadows are very important because it projects the features. I see now when I put this in, I'm going to make this a little narrower. I'll just put this nostril in there. Goes over a little bit more. Angle changes there, up, and I'm going to press the same one lightly. It's not too dark. Then I get the center of that nose. Usually the center part comes in underneath that nostril from this side when you're looking at it. And you have your nostril shape of that nostril there. Okay, now I'm doing that. I can make these a little darker in the corners, a little darker on the lips. Not too much darker here, but I want to get that corner dark and the shape of the teeth in there. I'm going to go right across the eyes. After I spent all this time drawing those eyes exactly, wiping it out just to put in the shadow to set them in. The important thing is that you should make your drawing as correct as possible, but don't worry about losing your drawing. Have confidence that you can redraw right over it and have it just as correct or incorrect as before. So now I can put in that pupil again, nice and dark. Now, many times what I do is I will just set in the pupil, and then usually the highlight in the eye is between the pupil and the iris. Yeah. When I go forward, you look in here. When I go forward, am I blocking, is my head blocking this at all?
No,
No, just
I
hand.
can see.
Just hand.
Just the what?
Your hand is.
Oh, my hand, my hand.
That's all.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Now, what we have over here now is that since my light is directly in the center, see, I'm doing everything to make drawing this difficult because usually I have a light coming from the side. It's very easy to put that highlight right between the pupil and the iris. But since it's right in the center, I'm going to do what I see, and it's right in the center of that on the top. Because the light is directly overhead, I have that reflected off the mirror down into her eyes. So it's going to be dark down here. And I'm going to put a little blue. This is a light purple. I'll probably make it a little lighter than this, but I don't want to get too light because I want you to get the feeling that the eyes are deep set in there and they're in the shadow area. So I'm not making that too light, but I'm going to try a little bit. A little lighter blue. This is a new pastel.
Do you use those sharpened pastels to cover large areas, or do you do that only for the fine detail?
It helps me in my drawing. Yeah, but as far as covering a big area, you use just the sides. You do a big area. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start putting in a few more lights now again, but I want to work on this a little bit and have that a little more, with more of a flesh tone. But I don't want to make it too light. I want to make it pink. If I mix light color in there too light, then I'll get mud. And that's the way you get mud. You mix a very light color with a very dark color, and then you get mud. So you don't want to keep it too much of a difference in values. If I work up to a lighter area, I work up gradually. So I look around where else is a little nice pink on the top here. And pink coming here now. On the side. I'm going to throw in some lights. I still want to get a little better on the shadow. Keep it it's a little too light. Try this put more to 7 value, and very light pressure, so I don't really obliterate the color that I put down originally. I'm going to put in the so-called white of the eye. And if you put it in white, you were in trouble. We get something. I'll put in a little gray. Actually, this is a yellow ochre, the darkest of the yellow ochre. Just want to get a value in there. Now we don't have a white. Usually some part is darker than the other. I'm going to throw in a few lights just to get a point of comparison. This is a 371.9. Nine is a very light color. Work that up. Usually have this bony ridge right over the eyes. And we'll get this nice and light here now. And it's always light here. The sides of the nose. Now, I don't know why gave us this hard lighting of putting light right in the center, and it's a different kind of lighting. A challenge, right. If I knew I was going to do a demonstration, I would have made it more dramatic coming from the side with deep, clear shapes of shadow. Now, show you another thing too. I use pencils, sort of I guess you can call them flesh pencils. I have them in Conti, I have them in Othello. And you can use that, I use my reds also. What I do sometimes is when I want to unify an area. Now I have some areas that are darker, middle tone, lighter, and lighter, darker, and so forth. If I just take one pencil and go over a whole area, the value relationships should stay the same. So say this is twice as light as that is. When I cover it over, that still should be twice as dark as that if I use a uniform pressure over the whole surface. The key is to use the same pressure all the way throughout. What I want to get also is to get rid of the paper itself. Sometimes you want to leave the paper if you want a turning area or a little cooler area, but basically you don't want to have it in the forehead or the cheeks. You may want to keep it down on the bottom where the shadows are turning and so forth. So this now is sort of making it a little more uniform, and it still is that that's lighter than that area over there. This is lighter than that, and so forth. So I'm just going to push in my lighter areas. Again, I'm using light pressure. So that's why when somebody says, what colors do you use for flesh? Well, I'm using all these colors for flesh because, as I say, flesh is very translucent. Light goes through it, so that some parts are more red, some parts cooler. This will be a little darker in here. Is that light too strong on me? Yeah, I'll see if I can move it a little bit there. A second. I don't want to blind your Erin over here. But you see how many colors I did put into an area. Let me just stop that in a second there. Okay. So what I tried to achieve here is to create that oval of light that I'm talking about in here. And this is darker down in there. At this point, I can start to see where I have to go a lot darker or a lot lighter. But I've achieved what I want to get in over here. Get that. Now the eye sockets are going to be darker. Shadow across the eye is going to be darker. I'm going to throw in just a few lights just to get a little contrast over there. So see, even before it looked as if I had a very light area there, I still have a long way to go. So, but that's why you shouldn't commit yourself too much in the beginning, that you want to get that perfect color. Just get in the average here, create the 3 dimension, that's what you want to get. So here we have a little over there. Again, very important you try to see the shapes of each plane. And try to do it without lines. I'm just trying to draw an area, not making a lot of lines. Okay, now I'm going to a little more pink. This one's a little pinker than that, but the bottom eyelid usually catches light. Now, it goes across, and the way it is right now, I see that on the right side now, the way the light is hitting it, it's much stronger right there.
Can you do that with pencil also, or?
Yeah, sure. So I get something else. Said with assurance. So here we have on this side now, just a little bit lighter over here. That I'm going to be putting in now. This little highlight over here on the nose. And then over here, and I see this as a little more pink. So I'll try to get something a little more pink in a moment. I'm just going to very delicately just get this a little lighter, this part over here. It's not going to be as light as the regular flesh because it's being hidden by hair. Shadows are in here. So that'll be a little bit darker than the rest of the area. Wherever possible, I try not to smear. I don't mind smearing clothing or hair. I want to keep the flesh tones nice and bright, full of nice warm colors. Now, I'm going to get a little bit darker over here now. Oh, there's the timer, so that'll be in the next break over here. It's not, I'm going to start redrawing now. I have 36 minutes left on this tape. And I want to get a little stronger. I want to get this a little bit less cool, even though it looks very cool. I want to get that dark in here. But now what I'm going to do is I want to get a little stronger reds on the cheek over here. And that I'm going to use a little warmer red, 371.7. And I see this area at the bottom of the nose is usually more red than the top. I'll be lightening this up or darkening up some of that area there a moment there. But I want to get now a little warmer reds as it comes across over here now. This side's a little cooler, but so I'll use some broken lines in there so it's not as dark as there. Darkened, but see a little bit over here now. I'm going to use a little bit now of more pink, a little more shadow type. See if we can use this 231.3. That's that darkest of the gold ochre. So I want to get the shape of the nose. Not made this shadow too dark, but I'm going to use a little purple, I think, on that afterwards. Looks very cool. I want to push the nose out, push this in. I'll get this shape under here now. I'll be lightening this up in a minute, but I just want to have this shape in here, and I'll be lightening up that cheek. These whites of the eyes are still too light. The bottom part there. turning. Over. This I'm going to start putting in some blues. I see the light is reflecting up, a little blue on the bottom here. That's going to be a little bit darker. And we take, this probably is too dark, it's the darkest of the Kaput waters. So what I think I'll be using is some of the new pastels. And you see you need some of these dark to push out. The light colors over there. Now, the bottom of the nose, I want to get over here. Usually comes to a V. And here you'll have that side over here now. There's the wing of the nose. The bottom of the wing of the nose is darker than the top part. This comes around over here, goes right down into the nostril. That makes to show you the shape of the nose going out and going in. Then you have matching up, and the face is symmetrical. So if it goes down here, it goes down there like that. They're a little lighter in the moment, but basically you want to get the shape and then have it push out. And the bottom here now will be a little bit lighter than that side. I'll be getting a little dark in the corners here now again. Put that in. Now it's always darker on the corners than on the center. I'm going to get a little bit under here. Put a little red over that in a second. But I'm just going to take this, which is a light brown, and just put a light tone on the bottom because I want that lip to be lighter on top and darker as it goes underneath here. Then to project that out, we have the shape now of the shadows. Goes across, comes across in here now, goes down, and that goes along the side of the face over here. I see that, yeah, this mount can be out a little bit more. When I was coming out over here now and I did this shape, I see that there's too much of an edge, a space between that line and that face. So I rechecked this, and this mount should go a little past that nose. That's what I always say. You get as close as you can with the drawing, and then you make your corrections there. So now this comes in a little bit more in here, and that's fine like that. So I'm going to get the value here now, and then I'm going to put some more blue in. This is a little bit lighter in the center and up there. Here I have now this, and it's always this round part that comes right out of that, where it's light, and your dark is right in this part here. Up in this part is your darkest part. And then it lightens up as it comes down here because we have that reflected light bouncing up. So you see, the darker I make this, the lighter that part looks over there. Now I think I should put in the hair because I'm not able to really compare this to that. But before I do that, I see those lovely eyes again. So while I have this piece over here, 273, let's say 273, that is a nice warm dark red in here. I'm just going to go right across that, put that little shadow in. going to put some charcoal pencil over it because I forgot to bring my gray new pastel and pencils. I'm going to open this up a bit, be a little higher. And I want to get this bottom eyelid in here. Now it's broken area in there, not a solid color, and I see it's going to be a little more red, but that gives a little more dimension to it. I'm going to even just take one of these charcoal pencils, 6B. Because I just want to really set those eyes in there. The part that goes across here now. And this is a 6B, which is very dark. I'm just taking very little pressure in there. I really want to set those eyes in.
Is that black that you're using? Or
Yeah, that's a charcoal pencil.
charcoal?
Yeah.
pencil?
Soft to 6B. It is. Yeah. I'm using it as a gray because I don't want to, I didn't bring my gray pencils and gray new. You have some gray new there?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. All right, let me use some of that then. I really want to set that in over there.
This is better.
All right, this one. Okay, so I'm going to bring it right across in here now. Just to set that in. And put it in here. And over there I'm going to get some color in a moment, but I'm putting this in just to get the value. See, it's dark here and it gets light out over there. Even in here I can show a little bit, just to get the value. And the main thing is, again, you want to get the right values, because when you get the color, you have to work up to it over there. Don't you... See what this is now. Oh, it's a 343.8. There must be another kaput mortem, I guess. Just want to see if I can soften up this edge here now. So the light come down, so it has to get softer down in here. And eventually I try to make everything as soft as possible. There's a little bit lighter here. I'm not going to make these as light as what's up on the top over there. Turning on the side of the head, so that's darker than what's out over here. Little light on the side here, coming out. Now see if we can get a little bit lighter. This is the light oxide red, or English red, on some of the other ones, but the number is 339.9. That's the lightest. I don't want to get too light, but I really want to start getting a bigger range in value changes. See, because every time I put down a color, what I'm doing is covering over the color that I put originally. So it dulls it out, so it neutralizes it. So you want to restate it all the time. And by doing this light, I shape the dark bottom eyelid over there. And on this side, it's not so light up to it because it's from a different angle. Over here, Now, I'll go over with a little more color, because I don't want it to be just pure white, or this very light color. See, now I'll restate this again. When I put in the lips, I lost it a little light again. And just throw in a few little lights over there temporarily, just to get little space in there. And now I have to restate this little highlighter there. But let's try this 286. Now it's very funny. I was making this set up, and I was sharpening my new pastels to a point, and I was arranging them from light to dark. And I see that I put in the 286, and then I picked this one up, the same number, but as you can see,
Different.
they're two different values. So the manufacturer, I guess, you got a little confused there, or maybe
One of them's
he
probably-
pressed the wrong button on the computer or whatever it was. But they both have the same number on it. So when you go to buy a stick and you say, I want this 286, you know, then you go back home, you say, something's wrong. I don't know. How much time do we have left on this?
417.
Oh, okay. All right, so now I'm taking another light new pastel, because I still want to push up the forehead more than this area down here. And the way I just glazed over with a pencil, I'll just glaze over again with this. So you can do that, and then you can do this, so with the same stick. You have to use whichever color is underneath it to work it out. And this little light I put on before, I'll just give a little more color. I'm going to get this a little bit lighter, shape the nose. This over here on this side also. So now, usually underneath this mouth over here, there's a lovely little light all the time. Because that little part is facing up. Now we'll just get this. Okay, now I'm going to restate that. I'm going to make her irises darker. Even though they look light, it's still, when I use all the dark areas, they're not dark enough. So, try a little darker blue than I had before. But I have pencils I can use also. Now normally, as the light comes through, the irises are lighter on the side opposite to where the light is coming from. In this case, the light is coming more directly overhead, so it's lighter on the bottom. So I'm going to take a little blue pencil that's a little bit lighter, and I'm just going to lighten up a little bit down in the center here now, on the bottom. And really, because the eyes are darker around the rims there, so that's a little darker down in here. See, working with pastel is like playing chess, in that you have to think 2 or 3 steps ahead. Now, I still don't want that blue to jump out that much, so I'm going to take very light raw lumber, just to neutralize that blue a little bit, using a soft pastel. And when you're using a small area of a soft pastel, you have to find the little edge of that. Okay. So I have to now get that shade back by putting in that pencil again. Try this one here now. Now when I use this blue, it's different than I ordinarily would get from it because I'm working over areas there. So what I'm going to do is now see if I can redraw that pupil.
15 seconds, Dan.
Oh, okay. Well, let's give you 10 seconds extra. Okay. I just want to get in this pupil. Just stay there for a second, Erin. Taking a charcoal pencil, I can do this with a blue pastel. I'm getting this dark back because when you work all around it or the dust gets over that pupil, as it filters over it, it just dulls the black, so you've got to restate that black again, and then you get it black around the sides. Now I'm going to put that little blue in there, very delicately if I can, for that highlight up in here. Okay. We'll take a break again. All right, so now we'll keep restating and redefining our colors all the time again. We'll go back to the drawing. All right, we'll get back and see if we can do the hair now. And the time we have left, then let me go back a little bit. 16 minutes, yeah. So make it 15. Yeah.
15, okay,
Yeah.
I'm setting it now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now we'll do her hair. Now I'm going to put in sort of brownish hair. Actually, on this is 204. I love it. It's a magic color, this 204. If you put it next to warm, it looks cool. And if you put it next to cool, it looks warm. And it's a nice in-between tone, so it like softens one area to another. And if something is too red, you may use it just to cut it down and so forth here. But it's also good just to use as a flesh tone. It's a nice flesh tone also. So I'm going to use it, I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. You want to get where it's turning, so it goes from the part, it goes dark, and then it gets lighter. So you get the centers lighter, then you go out, and less pressure as you move away from the lighter center over there. So you want to get that turn over there, you do the same thing over on that side. And again, we'll just try to create, well, you can see that too much here. Now, you have the hand, which I didn't draw in that hand yet. Oh my goodness. Alright, so you have a shadow in here. But I want to see if we just get some of that hair. So again, the value is what I'm interested in. It's a little too light to start out with. You get some of that there. Just want to create these forms. Now over here we have a shadow. So this part of the hair is in shadow, and then it comes out to a little lighter in here. I'll use some of my yellows, which would probably be awful. Yes, because they're too much greenish yellow. So I'm going to use just lighter browns then. I think this would be a little bit too orange. Yeah, it's just still too light on the value. Let's start. Still utilizing what's underneath it to mix to create those forms. And I don't worry about putting in all my 8 million hairs, individual hairs, that can always be put in later on like that. So I'm going to stick with my browns and mix it with my more yellow colors there.
Is that pink?
This is a 316, which sort of is a cool, not red, but it's close to pink, but it's cool. You know, I can use that in the center over here to make that turn a little bit more. Again, if you have the right values, you'll be able to create that 3-dimension which you want to get. I'm going to go a little darker on the hair. This is a one number 8, maybe too light. Yeah, I have to get more of the yellows in this.
Can you use any of these?
Take a look at maybe I'll start with this orange. Gave me an idea. It's 296, which is a nice flesh tone, and usually with these little bottom eyelids over here and so forth. But yeah, I'll have to use it as a base and put my yellows over it. And this is lighter up on the top, then it gets dark, and then it gets lighter again.
Now, Dan, if you have already done a lot of color on hair, can
On the
you-
hair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you redo with something like you're doing now?
I can
With
build
these-
up. Well, the reason I can build up more is I'm not committing myself to really pressing it into that paper.
Okay.
So I'm working with very light pressure
Uh-huh.
all along, so that I'm not filling in the full tooth of this paper. So I still have a few layers that I can still build up pastels on. If I would slam it in very hard, it would get to a point where I just can't pull it on anymore. And then at that point, I can always scrape it off with a razor blade, or do it with an eraser. I can get right back to this paper again if I want to. So it's not like an end to the painting over there. So this is like a flesh tone over there. And let's see. See if there's some yellows over here. They're very cool yellows. I don't know if they're a little too coolish. I didn't say ghoulish, I said coolish. You know, this I don't see that light. See, it's lighter on this side, less lighter on that side. See, but it's still too cool a color. This is even cooler. So I'm just going to have to keep mixing my browns down there and then put my green over it. This 313 I think. I'm going to put some of this over it. That's 313 is the number.
318.
Yeah.
Is that raw sienna?
It's more like a raw umber. Yeah. It's in between the raw sienna and the raw umber. Yeah. And this is a little more greenish. So this one will be a little bit better. 248 that I like also. Well, that's a greener color. Now, I'll get this to get a little more of the values. I got to get a brown in there. All right. So what I'm trying to achieve is my value in here and keep working up to the color. And parts of her hair are much darker than you think. Put in this 283, which is sort of a neutral brown. It's not too red. Some of my other new pastels are pretty into the red, like the 263 and some of those. And I'm just toning over very light, doing it fast but with light pressure. Now in here is the same stick that I just put over that. So this is what I covered over here. I'm going on bare paper over here. As you can see, this is quite a lot darker than that, but I can use that to darken in some of this now. This, and eventually it should get to be more of her color. Not much here now. I'm going to make that darker. Once I make this darker, I'm going to start throwing in a lot of lights in here, this reflected light. Now if that were next to the blonde hair, I wouldn't see much of the reflected light, because you see reflected light in a dark area. So you see it in this area here where there's shadows and other dark areas there. And if I work with this, I can just do that again also. See, so I can use it for hair, I can use it for shadows. But if I don't slam it in too hard, I'm getting the values that I want without really changing a lot on the values there. And I can't wait to get some of this blue down here. Of course, it won't make any sense till I get some of that blue shirt on here. It's a blue, green, blue, a blue, green. Have some.
Yeah.
Okay, I think more like this maybe. Okay, so this is similar to that. I shouldn't put in too much of this now because I haven't spent much time doing the drawing here. I don't want to get that correct. But I wanted to explain what I put in over here. That there. Now I'm going to take that same color with light pressure. And this is dark in the center, but there's some light that's catching in over here from that shirt bouncing up. So I'll just lightly glaze over that. I don't want it to look blue, 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 but at least get a tinge of that color that's there. There's a little bit bouncing on the bottom of her chin, and again I'm just delicately putting that in there, whereas the color, you know, itself is like that. See, but I'm putting this over that so it doesn't get that strong effect that I'm doing over there. I'm going to use that also into the shadow area. So it bounces off there a lot better. Now I have to get that hair darker. And 293, we'll see if that's dark enough. Now, the face should pop out now once I start darkening in. See, now this is not dark enough. Now, I can use it for this. Get a little darker across here. As I said, when you're working with one stick, look around where else you can put that. Get this a little darker in those corners now. I'm going to put more reds in here in a minute, but it's always darker in between the nose and the eyes over there. Darkening that and put more red in there. I'm going to be darkening those corners. When you do teeth, don't do the whole line vertically. Just sort of get a little suggestion on the bottom over in here. And you can see that the teeth pop out. This will be a little darker now here in the center. Comes across here a little bit lighter. Dark on the side. Darker here. I want to get a little darker value, then I'll make it a little bit warmer. Again, studying the shape of that plane to make it pop out more. I'm going to go a little bit darker, so I'm going to go on the hair over there. This is 223. That comes down into here now, and along in here. Now once I put this in, you see that this blue pops out a lot more. Yeah, I'm going to make it darker here now. These are the accents, and then you don't put in the darkest darks or the lightest lights at the beginning. You work up to it there, because in the beginning it's hard to know how dark it should be a light. Now I'm going to use this on here.
1 minute, Dan.
Okay. So as soon as we'll stop this tape now, and then we'll work on another tape. But this is the way I see it. You notice when they're putting those darks, what happens to all the other relationships here. This bottom is darker. Okay. So see, I'm still trying to create just shapes there. All right, we'll take a break. Very good, Erin. We couldn't have done it without you. All right, we'll start again now. In our next break, I'm going to work more on the face. I'm going to be trying to make, I think, more pinks, more lights, more pinks on the face over there. So, let's go a little bit lighter.
Dan, I see the value of this hair here being the same as this. This is a little lighter
this hair?
than this. The light spot.
Oh, the light here. Oh, okay.
The lightest spot.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
This is lighter. Yeah.
This is lighter
Yes,
than the lightest part here, right?
Yes,
A little bit lighter, yeah. Yeah. But it's in the same ballpark over there, the same color, but that's a little darker than the thing here. Because this hair on top is darker than the hair down on the bottom.
Yes,
over
it is.
here. Yeah. And that's how you have to keep matching up all the time. One related to another one all the time. That's why you have to keep changing.
This is an interesting lesson, Dan.
Oh, good. I'm glad of that. That's why I'm doing it. Yeah, because no matter how much I tell you what to do, if you see me do it, it's a little clearer. Yeah. Hopefully.
Eventually.
Eventually. Right. Okay.
I hope we have enough years.
Yes. Well, I sell
It's a forever
contracts.
project.
I sell contracts on that. We guarantee.
Right.
So I'm just going to lighten everything up because, to me, her face is very nice and light, pinky flesh, all that youth bubbling out that she'll appreciate about 20 years from today. I remember when I'm going to get this a little lighter here, but I'm going to leave the eyelids darker, the bottom eyelids darker there. See, there's a little light in here. I'm not pressing too hard. See, but that's the color, and I'm just pressing on very lightly over there. My front planes are lighter than my side planes over here. A little bit over here now. I'm going to, I think, pull this in a little bit, the shape over here, a little bit, and there. That's a little, or maybe I should bring my mouth out. I can just, still have to do that. I'm going to take some of my red pencils, and I'm going to see what we can do with the mouth there, because it's nice dark areas. See, I don't want to use this. This is a little too cool. This one's a little too purplish. These are a little darker. And then you have the lighter ones also. So with the pencils you can sharpen them to a point and really get in there a little bit more. So I'll go back here again. Do me a favor and just push this into the sharpener there. Okay. Okay. Now coming around in here now, a little bit darker. That. Maybe I can go a little bit darker than this now. This comes in here. It's not going in there?
I can do it.
Okay. Even though the white came over the lip, I can go right back over that again and get back my shape again. So don't worry if you think I'm going to bring this down to a little point in the center, a little more dark on the corner, and a little dark on the bottom here now. On this side. Go a little lighter in the center. Thank you. A little lighter in the center. Now this is very warm and very light. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use it, not full force, otherwise it'll get too light. So I just want to go over this darker area, and it's a little light in that center, like the bow of the ship, and then a little bit lighter on the top before it cuts down to the bottom here. So very light pressure. The center's a little lighter than the sides. Now with the same pencil here, I'm going to use it down on the bottom lip. And I won't get this effect because I used the dark that was underneath it. Rich up on the top here. I want to go out a little bit more because there's so much happening in this corner there. So with the same pencil, it looks cold up here, but it looks warmer down here because what I'm using are the colors underneath it. I really want to get nice, sharp highlight on his lips. This is a very light purple. May not be light enough for me, but it's, you want to get a nice cool red, but it's a little too, yeah, it's a little too much purple. So I put that down there just to get started, and then I'm going to throw in a nice white. Fire till you see the whites of their eyes. Again, with a little pressure, spacing these highlights to get that effect there. Then I get back up here. Pop this out in here a little bit. Up there. I don't want to press too hard with the white, and you really use the white only in this little highlight in the eye. But the way it is situated here, and I love to put that highlight in, but I fooled myself and changed the lighting over there. Just going to use very light pressure, broken strokes in here. Really start popping this up. I can always go over with color again, but I want to really get this, and I want to do this like a bold this area right here. See, this goes out in that shape, and the top part of this shape, I can either make the top part lighter or the bottom part darker. But you see, when I made this top part lighter, this part looks darker. Okay, here this comes down. I don't want to use that light over there. This is a cool light. Now I want to just really get rid of the gray paper over here, especially in the light areas. I don't want the gray coming through. So I'm using this as a sort of a blender or glazing over that area. And this I can warm up a little bit. Don't press hard. I still want to be darker than the center of the nose over here. Now we can lighten in some of this on the top. Just leave it darker as it gets to the bottom. It's lighter on the top. Again, the same principles apply. It's light, middle tone, dark to get those shapes. Oh, I wanted to fix up this area here. So I will use my here. You have to see where it really lines up with what part before it changes direction. That goes a little more like this. Comes into here now and it lines up. I'll have to make the neck thinner. That over here. So I'm lining up with that. At this point here, where it reaches the neck, that's still dark in here.
Is that the hair that you're...
This is the shadow of the
Shadow
hair. Shadow of the hair here, then this other hair comes out into this area here now. Even if I take this over that, I still get light hair. And this hair now is going to be a little dark, of course. Every time Erin poses, that hair is going to be different. So whenever you do hair, you just do it that 1 20-minute pose or whatever it is, because it will never be the same. Now, I can get my ear in there now, lines it with the nose, and because it's casting a shadow on my hair. It comes in here now, and it's casting a little shadow onto the face, and a little bit of the hair is catching the shadow in here. Yeah, I should have saved the hair for just an hour or so, whatever, or 2 poses, because the hair always changes in here. Come around in there, it's a little darker in there now. Comes down like that. And this, you get a few hairs to show you the direction. But that light part starts getting darker. And then again, darker facing the part, darker coming out of the part. It goes dark, light, dark, and then you throw some of the darks across there, some of the darks going across here. This we can bring up a little closer. Of course, it's a narrower area of light for that hair. This is a little darker. Okay, oh boy. Good. All right, next we will do this hand in here. I don't want to get into that too much. I'm just going to get it into that brownish tone again. So I want this to be a little darker than the rest of that. This will come over a little bit more. This I can bring out a little bit more too. Hair sticking out there. There's a little blonde hairs coming out there now. The 313 magical 313 that Susie connected me with. And now it has a different effect when I'm going over this brown over here. But I get a few of these hairs coming out like that. This is winding down in here. A few little hairs coming out like that. But you see, by building up all those areas underneath it, then I can use the top color. If you go for that top color, you know, one on the that you see on the outside first, it's potluck. You're going to get it right. You have to build up to it, get the values right, and then if you get these values right, then you can, like these little curls in here now. This over here is a little more orangey, and that's a little more yellow. I even put a few little hairs in like that. And I get a little lighter in the center, and then carry it through like that. So don't try to do individual hairs first. Build up an area and then throw a few hairs coming out of it. Now, look at those gorgeous eyes. I'm going to put this one. I'm going to try this red. It may be a little too dark, but I see nice red reflector light in here. And then over on this side also, a little more reds here. And then it gets brown as it gets out there. See if I get a little more reds on this edge. And the strongest colors comes out of your shadows. Actually, I'll have to put some down here, though I don't want to accent. See, I'm sorry I designed this lighting because it's really, I put everything in the wrong spot. It's dark where it should be light, light where it should be dark, and well, all right. It's a little off, and then he said that there's always tomorrow. Oh, that was Scarlett O'Hara, right? She said there's always tomorrow.
Fiddle dee dee?
Huh?
Did she say fiddle dee dee?
Oh, she may have said that too, right. Here we can do some of the ear and just sort of give. Now, you don't do every little detail, you just want to give the impression of that ear. First of all, it's not going to be too light. Even the light parts are not going to be too light if you compare it to your lighter areas over there. So we'll take a little. See, this is too pink, but I'll just again just use light pressure in here. A little bit of light there. Then there's a little bit of light down that edge here. And a little bit here. A little spot up there. And the way you create the ear, though, is with your darker areas. So I'm going to put in, oh, it's a 339 English red again, the dark part. I want to get this a little darker on the edge. Dark in that center. Down here. And there. And I'll go for the darker areas. This is, I don't want to get too dark, but I really want to get this shape in here now. Comes up like that. There's a little dark in here now. Comes out. Now, again, this part is the underneath of a plane, so it's getting dark under there. Lightens up like that. Comes in like this now. Not too dark yet, but then it's the part that really folds in over here. All following those principles. I think we can make this a little bit bigger. I'll change that shape in a minute. Okay. But I want to keep it all in the dark area again. So, say, cooler, red. I just want to do shapes, not with letter lines. A little darker here. There's a purple, a little pastel. A little cooler in there. I'm going to get some flesh in there in a second. So, but this still is the darkest area in here, that center. Darker up in there. See if we get a little more red in there. Some red pencil, another 19. Fellow. Darker again in here. Maybe that dark here. Some shape in there is darker. I want to get a little more fleshy feeling. A lot of it is not in the dark. This is the dark, this is out. I like feeling there. So it's a 416. It's a great color to use, 416. It's a nice rich red color. I use it coming out of my shadows. I use it for part of the lips. Now usually it's soft on the very end over here as this flesh comes into that mouth. So we soften up these ends. Now here on both sides. Just a delicate little turn. Just by pressure, I'm changing the value of this 416. A little warm in the center over here. Now, I don't want to jump out, so I'm just going to take this and go right over the whole thing. Soften all the lines that I did originally. Okay. I'm going to use this to that dark area right here too. Coming around there. I have to darken in the top of those eyes again. A little redder. And darker. Not too light. I want to get this little shadow a little bit warmer than I made it. That has to be a little lighter. This will be a little lighter. So just put that right there. See if we can get that a little lighter. The red that I want, but not that dark. Get a little bit of light here now. Nice and rich red here. Purple here. I don't want to make it too dark. I really want to show it's darker on the outside here as it comes around to the side. And this comes out into here. That is like that now. Darker on the edges. Darker here. Very end. Alright, just another minute or so. Right. See, when you're having fun, David, time goes fast. There's never enough time. You just do that with partly high. A little darker. I usually use black for this, but I'm just going to try this dark purple out. Coming across here now. Here. This will be a little darker here now. This will be a little darker down there. Okay, just look. Okay, you may breathe again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Erin.
So that's to be continued.
Very nice.
Thank you.